Hey everyone, my name's Daniel Veza, and today I'm talking about my journey to core maintainership and how potentially you can follow the same steps if it's something that you'd be interested in doing. Like I said, my name's Daniel Veza. I work at Previous Next as a developer. I've been using Drupal since 2014, and sorry to spoil a bit of my talk, I'm the layout builder, or one of the layout builder maintainers. The slides for this talk will be on my GitHub later, and are also available at a public URL, which unfortunately you can't see. I don't really use socials, but I'm on Slack with username Daniel Veza, very original, I know. What normally happens with me is I think of a bunch of questions as soon as I leave the room of one of these talks. So either come find me in the hall for the rest of today, or just reach out to me on Slack. I'll be around. I normally hang out in the Australia-New Zealand channel. So my talk today is split into two sections. The first is the journey that I took to maintainership, and the second is why I'd like for you to explore taking similar steps as well. So the first part that really helped with this is Previous Next 20% time. So at Previous Next, 20% of our time goes towards contribution. We tend to focus our time on core improvements or bug fixes, or towards the various contributed modules that we maintain. What I would do is I would work on patches that we have on client projects, or look for initiatives that interested me, like Bug Smash, for example. Core is a really large project, and you can't realistically know everything. So working on issues across various subsystems was quite difficult, and to be completely honest, I didn't really feel like I was making the best use of this time that had been provided to me. As a side note, if you're an agency owner or work for an agency or a government department, I'd love for you to explore the feasibility of implementing something like this, some form of dedicated contribution time. It doesn't even have to be 20%. You can start small. Any dedicated contribution time really helps. And if your team would like to ease into contribution and isn't ready for looking at core yet, maybe it's worth evaluating the list of modules, contributed modules that are important to your team. Make a list of, let's say, 10 and see if any of them need help with maintainership. It could be a way to kind of ease into it slowly. Eventually, I settled on Layout Builder. Previous Next uses Layout Builder for all, or almost all, if not all of our projects. And I had recently wrapped on a project that used it extensively, so I felt like I had a really good knowledge about how everything worked behind the scenes and under the hood of Layout Builder. Layout Builder did have existing maintainers, but they were very busy, and the issue queue was really starting to spiral. I don't have a screenshot of how it looked at the time, but it was well over 300 to 350 issues. So when I looked at it, I thought that this is a really good area for me to focus on, and I really feel like I could make a difference to this module. So the first thing I did was I ran triage on the issue queue. Starting from the oldest issue, I went through every single one. And when you've got 350 issues, that takes a really long time. And what I tried to do was I organized them into categories that I'm going to cover shortly. And I just want to point out that you don't need to be a developer to do this or have development background. A lot of triage can be done by anyone, just going through, making sure all of the issues are in the right format, have all the information they need. You don't have to do any development for a lot of this stuff. So the first was active or in progress. These were issues where, hopefully that comes through all right, where they had all of the information that was needed on the issue. It had steps to replicate, it was clear. Not really much needed to be done here. The next was needs more information or needs steps to replicate. For the most part, these were issues that were either created before the core template was around, or for whatever reason the core issue template hadn't been followed. So what I would do is I would add the need steps to replicate tag. If it was a really easy thing, I would try and replicate it myself. And then I would update the issue with steps that I've taken or steps just to ask the person for more information. Support requests. Layout Builder is quite complicated, especially for people who haven't used it before. And there were many issues in the issue queue that were really more support requests. For example, this issue here was creating a puzzle game, I guess, something like that, which isn't really something that's for the issue queue. So yeah, I tended to close or postpone or close those as support requests, and Drupal.org has a really excellent support page that I would then point the user to. If I knew the answer off the top of my head, I'd give them information in the ticket, but most of these issues you need to sit down and think about, so I'd try and point people to the right place. Duplicate. When you have 350 issues in the issue queue, it's just bound to be duplicates. It's just going to happen. What I would do is I would compare the two issues because I was running triage. I'd be able to look at an issue and be like, I'm pretty sure I've seen this thing before. So I'd compare the two issues, then I'd close one that had less information. Maybe the other issue already had a merge request or had a lot of really good discussion about the issue. So I would close the one that had less done on it, essentially. With so many issues, we don't want to be duplicating work. We want everything to be done in one central place. And the last one was quick wins. These were issues where I actually got to write code, which for me was a really nice change from the rest of triage, which was lots of documentation, lots of typing. Most of these issues tended to be a small fix, or they were issues where someone had done 90% of the work and then dropped off for whatever reason. Maybe they got a difficult code review or weren't comfortable with adding tests, for example. So most of these just needed a really small update. This is one of them. It's got a line count. It says about 140 lines changed, but the work that I did was mostly moving things around and adding small lines of test coverage, so they were nice and easy. And after all that work, we ended up with this. We've got 72 issues closed, and a lot of other tickets had updates from the triage. Almost all of them were at least up to date. Along with a bunch of tickets that had been merged. These were mainly ones that were from the quick wins section. The work that I was doing was noticed by developers at Previous Next, and also some of the developers in the community, and it was raised to me that, the question was raised that would I be interested in becoming a maintainer? I was interested. It wasn't the goal initially, but I felt really comfortable with my knowledge. So I reached out to the existing maintainers and I talked to them about it. And shortly after that, this issue was raised that nominated for me to join the team. So that was my journey, but you can help too. Realistically, the goal doesn't even have to be official maintainership. If you're in a place where you don't feel comfortable with that yet, or you want to just slowly start to get more comfortable, you can still target a subsystem and begin working on growing your knowledge in that particular area. You get to work with some of the best Drupal minds around, and having them review your code, or even having conversations in issue queues or on Slack. It really does help you grow. As of January 2025, there are 23 subsystems with no dedicated maintainer in core.maintainers.txt. Of course, any community support on any issue is helpful, but core is so big. So having people that know specific areas really well and are willing to help keep one section in really good shape is invaluable. Some of the subsystems have a pretty small number of issues, and are areas that people may be familiar with through their work. Cron and Menu UI both have around 30 issues. Maybe your work uses Postgres for all of their Drupal sites. That's also missing a maintainer. You may be familiar with some of the caveats that come with using Postgres in Drupal. If you want a challenge, then you could look at one of the big heavy hitters. Node is a pretty important module. I feel like we probably all use it. And it's got 260 open issues. So there's lots of different paths for you to take based on how comfortable you are and your experience. And I really quickly just want to point out that you don't have to actually target one of the subsystems without a maintainer. If you do know an area really well already, you can have a look at the issue queue and see if you can help out who is already maintaining the module. It's what I did. It would really be great one day to see all of the question marks in the maintainers.txt file filled out. So if it is something that you're interested in looking at, I'd really love for that to start today. So that's been my journey to core maintainership. It's been a really fun ride so far, and I really do feel like I've learned so much. I hope that hopefully I've inspired at least one person to go have a look at where they can help or where they can maintain, and maybe where they can contribute and begin their own journey towards maintainership. Thank you so much. Any questions?
We got a couple of minutes for quick questions if anyone's got one.
When you decided to settle on layout builder, how long did it take from your decision to have your issue committed to the maintainer? Sorry.
So the question was, how long did it take from me starting to work on layout builder to actually becoming a maintainer? It's difficult to remember off the top of my head. I would probably say it was probably a few months. It took a little while to coordinate between the existing maintainers to open the issue for me to come on board. Yeah, but it was at a spell where I had a decent bit of free time to start working on these issues. So yeah, I was able to really work through the queue quickly. But yeah, I'd say probably a couple of months roughly.
What changed for your day-to-day becoming a maintainer? What did you do differently once you were a maintainer?
Yeah, so the question is, what did I do differently once I became a maintainer? Not too much. So what I try to do when possible is I set aside time each day to look at new issues that have either been raised so I can triage them early, so they're not there 5 years later, or what's been updated. And then in terms of maintainership, it depends how busy I am at the time, but a lot of the stuff I do is I just try and keep all of the issues moving forward. So if they need reviews, I can review it. If people reach out on Slack, like in the layouts channel, for example, then I'll try to be around and answer any potential questions that they might have about issues. Secret hat, that's right. Yeah, maintainership isn't something that you need to commit a whole bunch of time to, and you're not going to get yelled at if you're not meeting your quotas. But it's all about just really trying to help keep your area moving forward and in good shape around working around your own life as well.
All right, we're going to do a quick swap, get out of it, but definitely take advantage, catch up with Daniel today, reach out on Slack, and I just want to thank the whole Previous Next team for creating an environment that's so supportive that lets so many of the teams spend so much time in the Drupal issue queues, taking those steps towards being a core maintainer. It's massively, massively valuable to the entire community. So congrats to you as a company and you personally.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.